Hello, mathematicians. Today we're going to be learning about algebraic expressions, more specifically about evaluating multi-step expressions. To get us started, here we have 4x plus 6 divided by 2 minus 1, and we're going to evaluate this expression for when x is equal to 3. What that means is wherever we see an x in our expression, we're going to substitute it for the number 3. So, instead of 4 times x, we're going to have 4 times 3 plus 6 divided by 2 minus 1. And now, since we substituted the x for 3, we have a numerical expression which we could evaluate using order of operations to help us. So we're going to use the acronym PEMDAS to help us evaluate this expression. And we're going to start off with P, which is parentheses, where we first solve anything inside parentheses or brackets. Well, in this case, the only thing we have inside of our parentheses is 3. And because that's by itself, we're just going to leave it alone. The 4 and the 3 next to each other with the parentheses does also mean multiplication. And within the parentheses, because we have nothing to simplify, we're going to go ahead and move on to E for exponent. And in this case, we don't have any exponents, so we're going to move on to multiplication and division. So after the parentheses and exponents, we're going to do anything with multiplication or division from left to right. It doesn't matter which one comes first, as long as we work from left to right. And in this case, we do have both multiplication and division. We do have multiplication first, so we're going to go ahead and multiply 4 times 3 first. And 4 times 3 is equal to 12. And then we also have division, and 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. Next, we're going to move on to A and S, which is addition and subtraction. And the same thing as multiplication and division, we're going to do whatever comes first from left to right. And in this case, addition does come first. So 12 plus 3 is equal to 15. And then minus 1 is equal to 14. So whenever we have 4x plus 6 divided by 2 minus 1, for when we substitute x for 3, the answer is going to be 14. So here we have another example, which is a squared minus 30 divided by 6 times, in parentheses, 9 minus 7. And we're going to evaluate this expression for when a is equal to 5. That means wherever we see an A, we're going to substitute it for 5. So instead of a squared, we have 5 squared minus 30 divided by 6 times, in parentheses, 9 minus 7. And now we're going to use order of operations to help us evaluate this expression with the acronym PEMDAS to help us. So to start us off, we have P for parentheses, and first we have to solve anything inside of parentheses or brackets. Here in blue, you'll see I've identified what we have in parentheses, and inside of our parentheses, we have 9 minus 7. So we're going to go ahead and evaluate that first, and 9 minus 7 is equal to 2. So we're going to rewrite everything exactly the same, except we're going to substitute 9 minus 7 for 2. Next, we have E for exponent, and we're going to solve anything that has an exponent. And in this case, we do have 5 squared. And 5 squared is the same thing as 5 times 5. And 5 times 5 is equal to 25. So we're going to substitute the 5 squared for 25 and rewrite everything else exactly the same. So now we have 25 minus 30 divided by 6 times 2. For multiplication and division, it does not matter which one comes first, as long as we're solving it from left to right. And in this case, we do have both of them, but division does come first. So we're going to go ahead and do that first. So 30 divided by 6 is equal to 5. So we're going to substitute that for 5. And then we're going to multiply by 2. And 5 times 2 is equal to 10. So now we have 25 minus 10. The last thing we do need to focus on is addition and subtraction. Same thing as multiplication and division. We're going to work from left to right. It doesn't matter which one comes first. But in this case, we only have subtraction. So 25 minus 10 is equal to 15. So when we substitute A for 5, we're going to get the answer 15. In our next example, we're going to evaluate 5b cubed minus, in parentheses, 7 plus 3, divided by, in parentheses, 9 minus 4, for when b is equal to 2. So what that means is we're going to substitute the variable b for 2, and instead we're going to have 5 times 2 cubed minus, in parentheses, 7 plus 3, divided by, in parentheses, 9 minus 4. So we're going to use order of operations to help us evaluate this expression, and we're going to use PEMDAS to help us. So to start us off, we have P for parentheses, and we're going to first solve anything that is inside parentheses or brackets. Here we have two sets of parentheses that have expressions worth evaluating inside. I know we have the 2 inside the parentheses for 2 cubed, but there's nothing else you could do with the 2, so we're going to leave that alone. But in our next set of parentheses, we have 7 plus 3, which is equal to 10. And then we have 9 minus 4, which is equal to 5. And then we have E for exponent. And in this case, we have 2 to the power of 3. Notice that the exponent is only with our 2, so we're not going to cube anything else other than that 2. And 2 cubed is the same thing as 2 times 2 times 2, which is equal to 8. So next, we're going to look for multiplication and division. And for multiplication and division, we do whatever comes first from left to right. And in this case, we have 5 times 8, and we have 10 divided by 5. So the first one we see is multiplication, so we're going to do 5 times 8 first, which is 40, and 10 divided by 5 is equal to 2. Next, we have addition and subtraction. And like multiplication and division, we're going to do whatever comes first from left to right. In this case, we only have subtraction. So 40 minus 2 is equal to 38. When we substituted b for 2, we got an answer of 38. Here we have our final example, which is evaluate c squared minus 10 plus, in parentheses, 6 minus c for when c is equal to 4. And what we need to do is we need to substitute our variable c for 4. And in this case, c appears twice, so we're going to substitute both c's for 4 because every time we see a c, we know that it's going to equal 4. And now we have 4 squared minus 10 plus, in parentheses, 6 minus 4. So, in order to evaluate this expression, we're going to use order of operations and the acronym PEMDAS to help us. Starting off with P for parentheses. Here in blue, you'll see that I've identified what we have inside parentheses. So we're going to first evaluate 6 minus 4. And 6 minus 4 is equal to 2. So we're going to bring down everything else and then substitute 6 minus 4 for 2. Next, we have E for exponent. And in this case, we do have an exponent, which is 4 squared. And 4 squared is the same thing as 4 times 4, which is equal to 16. So now we have 16 minus 10 plus 2. Next, in our acronym PEMDAS, we have M and D for multiplication and division. And whenever we have multiplication and division, we're going to do whatever comes first from left to right. And in this case, we don't have either multiplication or division, so we're going to move on to addition and subtraction. And same thing as multiplication and division, we do whatever comes first from left to right. And in this case, subtraction comes first. So 16 minus 10 is equal to 6, and 6 plus 2 is equal to 8. So our final answer is 8.